Hello. Happy Halloween or Blessed Samhain, or to come up, Blessed Dia de los Muertos. I hope you're having a wonderful, the veil is thin season, and I am here live with you on Halloween itself to walk you through one of my many mediumship spreads. And I want to welcome those of you that are here live and those of you that are going to be listening later. I'm sure many of us are very busy with our Halloween plans for tonight. If you aren't still hungover from the weekend before, I completely understand if that's the case. My name is Jenna Matlin, for those of you who don't know who I am, and I am a professional tarot card reader and psychic medium. And I have done a lot of work combining mediumship with cartomancy because traditionally that hasn't had a lot of crossover. But I aim to change all of that. Hey, Christina, it's good to see you. Um, so, why hasn't there been a hybridization between spiritualism or mediumship, as most people know it, and tarot? And often, tarot readers and mediums alike have been told things like, don't use your tarot deck, it's a crutch, or it's dangerous to use tarot for mediumship, or it's not actually mediumship, but just reading cards, or some version of these three. And the real reason why this hasn't been hybridized is because these two schools of thought did not intermingle. So tarot did not come into the US, and that's where I'm from. So, of course, that's going to be my perspective until the early 1900s. Mediumship, as most Westerners understand it, erupted out of basically, they're called the Fox sisters, three sisters who then spearheaded the spiritualism movement. And to make a long story very short, these were people that were in upstate New York. They were friends with Quakers. They themselves were quite progressive. And this was a very different socioeconomic class to cartomancers at the time. And there were cartomancers all throughout the US in the 1800s. They were plying their trade, doing readings out of their kitchen tables. And they were often immigrant women, disenfranchised women, biracial women, and perhaps, I believe, runaway slaves, because they could read behind a veil. That was kind of in to be like, do, 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 which is what we do today. But hey, they had to get $1 to pay for their, their kids' lives and their lives. So these two socioeconomic backgrounds never really crossed. They were never going to be in these upstate parlors where mediumship in the Western framing understood and were learning how to do mediumship. And those who were doing mediumship most likely never learned cartomancy in any kind of serious way. And so over time, these differences of opinion started to become a bias that then just got handed down through the generations. So all of the stuff that we're hearing about, like why you shouldn't do mediumship or use cards or why it's not as good, is still an echo of a bit of a pecking order that comes from the socioeconomic classes in the 1800s, believe it or not. Hey, Michelle, happy Halloween to you too. It's good to see you. But as someone who has both things, I can do a complete mediumship session without any cards, but I also can use just cards, and they're both fabulous. And my opinion is this: why would we take any tool out of the toolbox? If someone said to me, I built this house, but I did it with my bare hands, I didn't use a hammer, I'd be a little concerned. That's what I mean. We don't need to gatekeep this. The proof is really in the pudding in terms of what comes through and what can become validated or not by the person who's sitting there with us, should we do a mediumship session for another. So that's a little bit about why these haven't crossed over that much. And I aim to really change and start a new conversation about why you can and it's okay and you're not bad and you're actually not lesser of a medium because you use cartomancy. Because in fact, there are a lot of indigenous peoples all across the world that don't separate these two buckets. There's divination as well as mediumship, and they don't necessarily like separate the two. One really good example is in Chinese, it's called sand writing, and they use a planchette with a stylus and it moves across a plate or a box of sand. And that is spirit writing, which is incredible. That sounds a lot like automatic writing, which we have. And there are South African communities, South American communities, some other Asian communities like the Babalayo of the Philippines, where they are both. So it's kind of actually strange in the West that we've kept these in two separate buckets because that's not how it's even practiced in a lot of other cultures. So that tells me that there's more here than meets the eye. So I just wanted to say all of that to if you're a reader and you've heard any of those things or you felt maybe insecure or like we're worried that you're not as good, please allow me to reframe that for you with receipts, as you know, I do. So for today, we are going to do a tarot numerology spread that I've created. We're going to do this together. Just so you know, I'm not going to be doing a live mediumship. This is just an example. I have a very specific process that I use in mediumship. And so until I do that, to keep myself safe and keep everyone else safe and try not to have any advertent party crashers, which is what I call spirits who try to come in, not through my channels. I try to keep that to a minimum as much as possible. That being said, it is often the case where what's coming through, even if I'm saying this is an example, we're not asking for anyone to show up, someone may show up anyways. And so if this resonates with you, if this makes sense to you, then take that. That usually means that they definitely try to get through. For me as a medium, as a reader, consent is really important to me as well as like knowing my lane and staying in it. So I would never in a million years go up to somebody at the grocery deli section and let them know that their Mima is here to hang out with them. I wouldn't do it. If people want that experience, it's a very intentional and safe process with lots of very particular boundaries. So that's just something also to keep in mind as you do this. So, for today, I did want to talk a little bit about the common themes in mediumship. So, as you're moving into more of a tarot mediumship or Lenormand mediumship perspective, and you start to get information from the beloved dead, there are three main buckets, as it were, that tend to be the bulk of most of these conversations. One of them is the theme of validation and connection. So, and this often will happen usually the first time someone comes and gets a mediumship session. I've noticed it. And it's often a lot about speaking about the past, what happened, what they understand about their life, and also yours. There can be some atonement to that. It really just depends. But most importantly, what we're seeing is a lot of validation. So just like, oh yeah, this is really he or she or they're really here and they're really talking to us. And it's not something we're just all making up collectively. So that there's a lot of that initial, like, I'm really here. Yes, I'm really here. I'm really here. And yes, I'm still connected to you. I haven't gone. So that is a big kind of thematic bucket. The other theme is like other realms. What are they up to on the other side? What do they got going on over there? Who's with them on the other side? I had a really interesting one happen recently from someone who came to me as a client, and there's always this like parting kiss or parting something that I get like as we're about to end the session. I'll get a really strong image of usually physical connection or some final kind of goodbye. But this time I saw a swan and I was like, I have no idea. And it's usually when it's like, I have no, this is going to sound crazy. Um, and then she sat back and was like, that's crazy. Because the swan wasn't connected to the person we were actually bringing through, but the swan was a beloved swan pet of the client. So we'll see stuff like that. Sometimes there's someone who's like, "No, no, I know I haven't been called, but I need to just say, 'Hey, I'm here as well.'" It was extraordinary. So that's what I mean, like, I was like, why would I be mentioning a swan? Was it a swan of the person who came through? Because I don't always understand the connection necessarily, it was kind of a final thing, and she was like, "Oh, no, that was my swan," and I was like, "Oh, well, you need to know your swan is letting you know that they're fine too, and they're connecting with you." So, you can get things like that, from the visit. They may also talk about things going on that they're noticing within the family or things that they're noticing with you, or even any other people. And I think the final kind of theme, the kind of bucket, would be like advice and support, and giving you advice. But often, if we come in my experience, if someone comes into a mediumship session wanting something very specific, it's very different than what we would do in a standard tarot reading. Um, it is more like, like say, oh, I want to know about, the inheritance, right? I'm in conflict with other members of my family. What do they really want? And the person who's on the other side is like, oh, I don't care about that. So I would say we need to be careful with the agenda we bring in, because often the advice and support may not be what's top of mind for us, but what's top of mind for them or what they feel is important for us to know. So it's a real different way of reading, especially for those that you've trained with me. As a tarot reader, because as you know, as a tarot reader, I am hyper specific. I'm definitely not like whatever the cards want to tell us. I'm not like that. I am like, what's your question? We're going to get to the bottom of it. But with tarot mediumship, it's a very, very different kind of beast. And I think that speaks to one of the stereotypes we've heard, which is, well, you're just reading the cards. How do you know it's any different than mediumship? Maybe it's not mediumship, but you're reading the cards. To that, I say there are a lot of professional tarot card readers who are reading tarot and then suddenly realize it's a mediumship session. How would these readers be struck over the head with that experience if they believe wholeheartedly that all they're doing is just reading the cards and there's no difference? If there is no difference, there would be no point where a tarot card reader was struck by the complete difference that this is now a tarot mediumship session. So if you ask a tarot reader who knows his or her chops, they'll often have this kind of experience, and it was surprising to them. They weren't actually looking for it. So I feel there's more of that bleed, a tendency for that bleed between Lenormand and mediumship. I just had one yesterday that was a doozy. I was like, it's within the 6 months. I don't read within 6 months for a lot of reasons. But sometimes in a grand tableau, they'll still kind of do a little love note, what I call a little love note, like just a little message like, hey, it's good, I'm fine. And it did. And I was like, there it is. Wow. Okay. So when you get more and more into tarot mediumship, it's gonna feel different. The voice in the cards is going to feel different than how you normally do it. And the tone of it, the cards that you normally use, if there is that breakthrough experience, it's almost like someone else is speaking through your deck. And I can only that's the clearest I can come up with how to explain it. But for those of you who have done a lot of readings, I know that you know that there's a voice. There's a voice that you very much know, and it's not just you. that is part of your relationship with tarot and however you perceive that. Now, and then it's shocking when it's like, wait a minute, this is another what? What's going on here? So I say all of that to say it does feel different and it can be surprising. So main three buckets is validation and connection, advice and support, and what's going on the other side. And don't come in with an agenda because what we may want to know may not be what they want to talk about. Like we have another free will agent now involved. So sometimes people want a mediumship session, but then want to ask grandma if they're going to get the job. And I always say, actually, what would probably be better for you is like a standard tarot reading, because that's like adding another element that I don't have any control over, so I don't know. But with tarot, I'm pretty confident that we'll get what we want in most cases. So sorry, I'm kind of going through some notes of things that I want to talk about. So for today, we're going to do what's called the death date spread. And before we get into it, I want to talk about some guidelines that I've noticed for tarot mediumship that is unique from a standard tarot session. With tarot mediumship, I look at reversals as what's going on the other side, not it's a reversal of the card. So while we're here, all the upright cards are concerning what's going on in this realm. Anything reversed is concerning the other realm. Same for court cards. Court cards upright are often speaking about people in life or about memories in life with people in it. Court cards reversed are often referring to people on the other side or themselves. I look at majors, so the major arcana. Majors reversed is often like what they're working on, karmic work. Majors upright can have like karmic work or themes they were working through in life. I also tend to look at suits as proximity. So if there's a lot of certain suits, that tends to give me a sense. And I don't use this it's not as strong, but it's like, oh, am I sensing in alignment? What I'm getting is what they're putting down. So things that are like wands and pentacles to me feel like more of a closer, talking about something closer or that they're maybe closer than usual. And then swords and cups is kind of further afield or maybe in another realm. It's so that's kind of like it. There's more than that, but I think that is just some kind of guidelines to keep in mind as you start doing this work. And also, try to find the story. What are they trying to tell me? What's going on here? And of course, you always want to rely on your natural psychic talents and gifts. So as you're looking into the card, you're looking in the image, where does your eye go? What are you noticing that you normally don't notice before? That's important. If you get a word or an image in your mind, that's usually important. And just like tarot card readings, be very careful not to speculate, because when we speculate, we can be wrong. And so that means becoming very brave and saying the really oddball thing, even though it may not make any sense to you. And I still struggle with this. Don't interpret. Just say what you're getting. Say what you're seeing with the reading itself. And also tarot. So sometimes we can pull the cards and look at them, and just looking at the cards will trigger a clairvoyant event or a mediumship event within us that doesn't actually make any direct sense with the cards. So if you're freaking out about the moment I pull the cards over, oh my God, I've got to start making sense. Which keywords are there? Then you're moving more into a linear approach and not this more like intuitive mediumship psychic approach and all of that. Because sometimes you look at the cards and then something will just hit you, like you'll just get it and go, oh my God, it's this thing. But you won't be able to explain how you know that. But there was something within the cards that triggered it. So trust that stuff. And then finally, I think I would want to say, um, a lot of people say, I need to build confidence before I do this. And that's not the right thing to look for because confidence is the reward. Confidence is the gift of courage. And courage means I move forward even though I'm not sure and I'm scared and maybe I'm going to be judged or maybe I'm going to be wrong or whatever it is. But courage also adds another layer that I just want you to be aware of, which is courage is also about some kind of trust or faith in yourself or in something bigger than you. That even though you're not exactly sure, have your trust that something is going to help you, a part of yourself, something greater than yourself, the spirit themselves. So that is what I want you to come in with is I'm not trying to be confident that I have to earn. I'm coming in with courage and faith and an open-mindedness and I might mess up, but I'm going to try. So I want you to have that mindset when you do this. Um, in my experience with bringing people through, no one's ever been mad at me or punitive because I didn't get a message. They're just happy that anything has happened. Um, and I have not really dealt with any dark spirits or anything like that, honestly. And it might be because of the very, very clear boundaries I create with everyone, but also when we are very specific about who we're pulling through, they're often just people doing work on the other side, just like we are. So I don't feel like it's something that if we're really, really specific and really intentional, we need to worry about. There's far more good on the other side than I think is bad and definitely not harmful. Okay, so that's like my intro to to doing this. And I hope that was a helpful way to kind of look at what we're going to do next. So let me grab my, oh, it's already up. So I'm going to grab my, I'm going to put my document camera up. Okay, so how this works. This is more linear. Oh, hey, Mina. Sorry, I didn't see you. If you're still here. Hey, how's it going? And I like the cute little jack-o'-lantern. This is a little more linear than I typically have taught, but I find that it's kind of guardrails will be easy. So the beginning is very linear, but what comes after that is more typical to my approach, which is just read the cards. What's the story that's emerging? So let's say that let's just for funsies, say that we want to do a mediumship reading on someone who has passed. And let's just say for fun, they passed on October 31st, 1924, 100 years ago from now. So what I would do typically, I guess I can take this off and just you can see my face. What I would do typically, one of the things is having that person in life, whether they're historical, someone you know, or a reading you're doing for another. And I would recommend if you want to move into this, do readings for others before yourself. I know no one ever listens to me, but it will be easier for you to, when you're working with someone else and you don't know the other person we're calling through, then you're not having to fight wait, is this like just what I already know? Or is this something new? It makes it a lot easier for you to identify the feeling of it that you then can use for yourself later. Matter of fact, I had a very lovely conversation with my grandmother earlier today. I'm like, anyways, so sorry, I just love her so much. 10/31, 1924. If this was someone I was specifically looking for those of you that have taken my class or have worked with me, know that I have a very special place that I go to, and this is the only place I go to meet spirit. And it is a place I also bring clients. It's kind of like a shamanic departure point, but for me, it is a place that I know very well and it feels very safe and it's a very contained. So for me, it looks like a stage. And I do a brief guided meditation where I bring my client onto the stage and they have a spotlight shining on them. And I'm standing there as well, kind of one foot in the spotlight, one foot out, just kind of watching everything. Because the thing is the mediumship is stronger uh, the more the relationship existed. Typically, not always. Family relationships, bonds, that kind of thing. And it's easier because it's not me that's calling the person, it's the client or the person I'm doing mediumship for. They're the ones that are really the link. And this was a technique I kind of started working on because just from a clairvoyant perspective as a tarot reader, if I'm reading for someone and their boyfriend or their partner or their kid or whatever, it's like links on a chain. Like I feel through them, I get what I need. It's a bank shot. I don't go completely around. It's the best I can get, kind of explain it. And I use the same kind of technique for tarot mediumship where it's really through them that I'm listening and hearing, and they're maintaining the focal point, whether they know it or not. So then we have the person come on. But when I'm like shuffling, let's say that I'm just shuffling, I'm thinking very, very intently upon the person we're calling through, their name, their face, asking them to attend, asking them to be part of this process with us if they want to. I don't want this to be like 2 hours. Like this is all, I ask permission ahead of time before I even do this. Is it okay that we bring this person through? And I do that ahead of any of my appointments. So again, consent is important. Um, so let's say that we've done that and we have shuffled. So this is one way. Another way you can do it is, well, not with this one. This one is unique to the card choice, but typically what you can do is treat your hands as if they themselves are the planchettes and they are being guided by the hand of your beloved dead in the same way that you would a Ouija planchette or a Ouija board. But this one is, I think, easier for people beginning this kind of way to do this as a tarot medium. And it's a little more formulaic because I don't want people, I believe, right, that like anxiety kills this, whatever this is in the many forms. So I always try to build things that try to cut um, anxiety so that it's clear. I guess I should mention this too. Another reason why I don't see spirits within 6 months has to do with a couple of factors. Oh, hey, Tracy. But one of them is grief. Grief is so loud. It is like a thunderstorm on a lake. When there's a thunderstorm on a lake, we cannot see clear through the lake. And grief is a very loud thunderstorm. We cannot easily get mediumship messages if the main connector is in a state of grief. And even after 6 months, if they are in very traumatic grief or complicated grief. And I can see this by when someone dies, it's not uncommon. Not always, it really depends, but it's more common than not that the people who start getting visits from the person who crossed over, like dreams and visits, that kind of thing, usually after the initial week that they crossed over, it's not going to be the first degree family. It's often a family member or a friend that was really removed, like second cousin removed or an acquaintance. And then they'll reach out to the first degree family and go, "Oh my God, I just had a dream of your dad." and I don't know. And that's really hard if you're first degree because you're like, why are you going to all these randos and not coming to me? Right? Like, you're like, oh, why are you doing this to me? And it's not that they're not coming to you. It is that the turbulence of grief keeps them from hearing them. And so they'll often try to find people close enough where a message can be delivered to you, but they themselves are not in enough grief that they can get the message through. All the time, like every time. It's so common. So when we are shuffling or doing whatever to bring through spirit, we want to be in a place where we're very calm and very non-troubled, and also not grasping at something where there's this hunger and desire, because that starts to be a rain on that lake too. We want a calm lake. We want a very calm lake. So, and anxiety can be part of that. So if you're worried about, am I doing this right? Am I choosing the right cards? Maybe it's me, maybe it's them, I don't know. Then that's anxiety, and that will kill the calm lake, the placid lake that we're trying to get to so that you can get those messages. All right. Now I think I'm finally ready to do this. Sorry. Let me know if I'm over explaining. So with the death date, so let's just say that the person is born 10/31/1924. And this is again, this is just an example. I'm not bringing anyone through, but this one, you do not use your hands as a planchette. What you do though is you shuffle thinking of that person. And then once you're shuffled, what you're going to do, let me see here. What you're going to do is you're going to start counting from the top, and you're going to break the date of birth. So 10. And let's say if you're from the UK where it's month, day, year, or let's just say you're from Asia, which is year, month, day, you want to do what is culturally appropriate for the person who crossed over. So if your grandmother was from China originally or Taiwan originally, and you know that that's what she knew, even if she came to like the US or some other country after that, I would say probably do the death date work from what is natural for the person who crossed over. So let's just say that this person is in the US. So we're going to do it in the US way. So we count to 10. So like this is like the least fun part. So 10. So that's the first card. The second thing is 31. So we have cards left over. You're just going to put them to the side. And then from the same top, you're going to do 31. Then with the year, I break it up. So then it's 19, then 24. So I start back at 1. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And now we have 24. So we start off at 1 again. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now that means we've gone through the deck. This one is an extra one. What did I say? Was it 18? Yeah, I want to say 18. So this is an extra 18. And then we're going to shuffle the pile again, ever keeping this person in mind. $19, $20, $21, $22, $23, $24. So you will end up with 4 or 5 cards. That's it. Unless there's a mathematical possibility for another one that I haven't thought through enough yet. So again, when you get to the bottom of the deck, you pull that extra card out, the last one of that deck, keeping in mind the number it finished on. Then you're going to reshuffle and then start from 18 until you get to the number that you're looking for. So these are the cards that we have. And it often can be, because it's about the death date that we're looking up, it often can be around their death, the things happening to them, leading up to their death, or soon after, just like the Lenormand like crossroads spread or a Hecate spread that I use. This is a similar kind of thing. This is good when there is questions surrounding somebody, or you feel guilty, like I wasn't there in time, like, are they okay? There's a lot of that, and this will address a lot of that and heal a lot of that grief, and also get to a lot of clarity. So we can just pull them all out together. And this is not my tarot mediumship deck. I'm just using this because it's a Rider-Waite Smith that's typically most people can read no matter what. So we have Ace of Swords reversed. We have Seven of Cups reversed. We have Nine of Wands reversed. We have Page of Cups reversed, or upright, I'm sorry. And we have Nine of Pentacles reversed. This is really interesting. Very interesting that we have a ton of reversals. I would take that as, oh, wow. There's a lot of conversation around the other side, more so than this side. If someone was born 100 years ago, that would make sense. A lot of their first and second degree relatives may also be on the other side. There may not be a ton of like close connections left on this side, and then it becomes more of an ancestral connection. However, there is one upright, and that is Page of Cups. And I feel that this isn't someone who's currently alive. I think this is someone who was alive and around around the time of this person's death. So this person was either around or probably caretaking this person up until the end of their life. Probably a daughter or granddaughter. And they were around when this person died. So that's how I would read that, just that one particular court card. And it doesn't mean it's someone that's really alive now. It was just like referring that person was with me in life when I crossed over. So when we look at the rest of the cards, I'm trying to get to the perfect thing of like, you guys can see them all clearly enough, but you can also see them all at the same time. So this again is referring to the other side. And it's also, we see that there's not a lot of major arcana. So I feel like this is mostly talking about mundane things. Probably like the feeling I get with this would be there's a lot of discussion around what was realized after death, or having to process a particularly difficult death. Ace of Swords as um, the first card, Christina, it's their date of death, not their date of birth. Yeah, it's the date of death. We're trying to get to what was going on around that time. Yeah. So Ace of Swords reversed, Seven of Cups reversed. This is really interesting to me. And I would say, I would actually, like the first thing that comes to me when I look at that. And so for me, it's like, follow the first story that comes to mind. This person died while under during a surgery, maybe, or some kind of routine procedure. They weren't awake for it. They weren't necessarily aware of it at first. With that Ace of Swords as the reversal, like to me, I see that as surgical, like literal knife in this person. And then along with Seven of Cups is fantasies, but also can be, I can see that as an alternate dream card. That's not Nine of Swords. Someone's head was in the clouds dreaming when this occurred. Nine of Wands reversed. There was some initial confusion over what happened, possibly. Possibly they weren't exactly sure what happened. And then Seven of Pentacles reversed. So Seven of Pentacles, like, oops. Like this, and this doesn't mean that this person now regrets what happens, because that's not always that's almost never the case. It's rarely the case, actually. Hey, everybody. Dinner is served. Hey, Anna. Hey, guys. But what was kind of going on at the time? So Seven of Pentacles reversed is almost like cut short, like didn't get to grow all the way. So as I'm looking at this, then I would say, I don't think this was a daughter. I think maybe it was a sibling. And maybe this person was very ill and they tried some kind of surgical intervention, medical intervention, that then didn't happen. It didn't make it. Seven of Cups gives you morphine vibes. Yeah, totally. Right. Yeah, exactly. There's something about it. Like at first they weren't aware of what was going on. And this being like, I crossed over younger than most, or before maybe even I got to finish something. So these three cards, even though they're kind of referring to what's happening right, like around the death, we also have to look at the perspective. So the perspective is this person kind of going, wait, what just happened on the other side? Going, oh no, oh no, oh, right? Like, and so what we're looking at, I would say, if this was an actual reading, I would say that we're looking at the very short moments after, like right away after that death. This is really interesting to me too, because this could be a type of spread that, not a spread, but what these are, like we're not, if someone had a near death experience and they die on the table or something, and then they have like, oh, what just happened? Wait, I don't know if I'm ready. And then often someone that they love will show up and go, you've got a choice, babe. Or if you're going to go back, you need to do it now. And for the people that have had near death experiences, they're the ones that chose to come back. And they uniformly say how difficult it was, that actually they didn't really want to, that the way they felt was so incredible, so amazing, that they didn't want to go back. But they were either kind of forced to by their friends and family going, no, you're not ready to come back, come here. Or they had something that they knew they couldn't leave. So we don't know that full story. I mean, obviously this person chose the other side if this is a mediumship reading, right? But that's where I would see something like this. This to me, like the one upright person. So if this was a mediumship reading, this would be a validation. Was there someone who is like Page of Cups in temperament, a young female typically, around this person, or caretaking, or really with this person, like right around the time of their death? This was very important to this person. To me, this is more of the validation that we've got the person we're looking for, and this is telling the story. And so as you can see, even though the way we pull the cards is in a very linear fashion, the way we're reading it is a little more advanced, because we're not looking at positional statements. What we're doing is we're looking for the story with some guidelines in terms of how I read, or how I share that I would read this as a tarot mediumship spread. Anyone live got any questions? You see how I did that? And if you see something else, let me know. I'm not the like end all be all here. Different things will come to different people. So, how do we know that we're not making it up, right? The validation part. What I taught in my class, you can do people like famous people, maybe famous people that you know have died, but you don't really know their story very well. And you could do a reading on them and then look on Wikipedia to see if you can get a validation. You can do something like this for a friend of yours who would be open enough and okay enough that you're still kind of practicing. So we only have 15 minutes left, and then I'm going to redo this on Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, I'm not going to do the same one. I'm going to do like a different example just to kind of have fun. So if you want various examples of how I would read that, like let me know. But I find that this technique is a lot of fun. And it plays off of their death date, which is important to know. How long have they been away from here? So that's one of the things I ask for whenever someone comes to me. And also, what is the relationship between the person who's coming to see me, a querent, and to the person who's crossed over? Because it's important for me to know how strong that connection is between the two of them. And don't discount as you're doing this anything that's coming to mind or anything that like hits you. Like it could be really important. And like I said, really just say it if you see it. It may not make any sense. It may be off the wall. But I've had enough of those really validated over time to know that I absolutely need to say what I see. And I can just be like, I don't quite understand this. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to give it to you. And the final thing I think around that too is we don't always get a validation immediately. We may say something to someone and then they go, no, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. And then later get an email or they text you or whatever and go, oh my God, I found out that's actually true from someone else. Or I don't know why it didn't come to me, but yeah, like that totally makes sense because blah, 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 blah later on. So if they tell you no in the minute, just like, okay, let's just put it in our pocket for later and then keep going. We don't want to stick with it. The only way I would stick with something like that is if I keep getting repeated images in various different ways around the same kind of theme or topic, which for me is often indicative of spirit is really just trying to get this through. Like, no, this is really important. This really happened. And they're wanting the querent to get it right there. So the other thing too is sometimes check your word usage. Like for example, if you use the word indigo and they're like, no, not all. And you're like, I don't like blue. And they're like, oh my God, yes. Like sometimes we listen through such a small framework that it makes sense to be like, can I say this in another way? Maybe they have a different understanding of what these words mean than I am meaning to convey it. And you can try a different way. And sometimes that will work too. Yes, Anna Luisa, I do have a whole technique. That would be a whole other hour session. And I think you came in late, so I talk about it a little bit earlier in the video that I'm very specific who I'm looking for. I don't go looking for trouble typically, and I would not recommend any newer readers to do so. I ask for consent. I have 2 decks. So this is not my mediumship deck. I have a mediumship deck. I have a couple of them that I use specifically for mediumship. And then I have a secondary deck that I use that acts as my companions. They work to protect this space and me and the querent. And it's something I do over and over again. So the more we are clear about what our process is, and don't let any spirit nudge you out of it and deviate you, the more you're protected, because that's you saying, I'm the boss about how I want to be talked to and be in conversation with you. And you need to follow my guidelines. And if you're not, then I'm not going to engage. This is the best way to protect you. Yeah. So people that don't have very strong boundaries around this and are just like, let me just see, right? And we all do. I mean, come on, we all do. We're curious. But if you are bad at boundaries in life, you're going to be a messier mediumship person. Like boundaries with others in our lives, as well as others on the other side, is a really important function to doing this well and doing it in a way that protects you and everyone else. Yeah. So Mina, as soon as you said surgery, I had the poster. Let me actually put this up. Oh, that's interesting. You know what, guys? What if I ask ChatGPT right now and see if there's anyone that comes up? That would be the quickest way to get to it. Hold on. Let me do this. This is fun. Is there someone from history who died on October 31st, 1924, who died during a surgical procedure? Let's see what it says. It's investigating, examining potential deaths, weighing historical figures. There's no well-known historical figure. Nope, there's nothing. Oh, shit. That's crazy, actually. Harry Houdini, you know, the guy who completely debunked mediumship, died on October 31st, 1926 from peritonitis, resulting in a ruptured injury, but he did not die during surgery. Nope, there's nobody that comes through. We'll keep playing with it. But again, I said it was an example, but it's kind of fun too to see. Maybe, I don't know. All right, finally, I am presenting at the Death Fair. For those of you that are in North Carolina, every year at the Plant, it's called the Plant in Pittsboro, North Carolina, there is what's called the Death Fair, and it's incredible. There's mediums, there's speakers, there's shamans, there's teachers, there's death midwives, all coming together to speak to death and speak about death in various ways, and lots of vendors, like lots of cool things. It's a great way to spend November 1st, this Saturday. I will be presenting in the afternoon. I will be doing, and some of you know this, the guided meditation to meet death, to meet your death. So that's coming up. So if you're in the area and you're free, like come hang out. You can find, let me see here. I got to update it, but it should be a link to buy tickets there on my link tree. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a very wonderful Samhain and Halloween season for today. And I hope you guys, if you feel strong enough and you have good boundaries, you could play around with this and see what happens. But just, again, keep it contained. All right, everyone. Yeah, it would be ironic. Well, he was the one that he's the reason, Harry Houdini is the reason why spiritualism never really it's bigger in the UK. And it was because of Harry Houdini debunking mediumship or that kind of thing. But it is interesting. You're welcome, friends. Have a great one. And if you want to see this again, I'm doing it over on Instagram at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time. Coming in with courage. You are so welcome. Courage is faith, isn't it? Like, I don't know if this is going to work, but there's something in me I believe in and something greater than me I believe in. And then from there, confidence is the gift. All right, friends, take care. And I hope you like this. If you're new to my channel, I don't post a lot because I make really thoughtful content that I road test. So that means I'm not just pumping out a ton of content to pump it out. I just can't play that game. But I occasionally, I'm here on Thursdays if I am here. And I do have a bunch of other stuff on Mediumship throughout all the postings of this last October, as well as stuff on TikTok and Instagram if you want to read more or you want to come get a mediumship session with me. I'm cool with that too. All right, friends, take care. Have a good one. It's good to see you all. Bye.